The survey vessel Horizon's Edge drifted silently through the darkness of space. It had been traveling for 6 cycles, mapping stars and cataloging planets in a remote spiral arm of the galaxy. Commander Al stood at the center of the bridge, his 4 eyes fixed on the viewing screen. Before him floated a small blue planet, beautiful and peaceful from this distance. Planet number 7842 in Sector 9, announced sensor technician from her station. She was young for a, barely past her first century, and her silver scales shimmered with excitement. Initial scans are coming through now, Commander. Al nodded slowly. He had seen thousands of worlds in his career. Most were dead rocks or gas giants. A few held simple life forms. Finding anything remarkable was rare. He expected nothing different from this unremarkable blue dot. Sub-Commander moved to stand beside him. She was thin and nervous by nature, always expecting the worst. "The readings are strange," she said quietly. "I do not like what I am seeing." "Show me," Al commanded. The main screen filled with data, began reading the results aloud, her voice growing more uncertain with each word. "The planet has an extreme axial tilt of 23 degrees. This causes violent seasonal changes across its surface. Temperatures swing between deadly extremes depending on location and time of year." "Unfortunate," Al said. "Continue." "The core is molten iron, creating a strong magnetic field. The atmosphere is 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen." Paused. "Commander, oxygen at that concentration is highly reactive. It causes rapid oxidation of most materials. It is essentially a slow-burning poison." Made a sound of disgust. "A toxic atmosphere, the planet is hostile." "There is more," continued. "The planet orbits a yellow star of medium intensity. Solar radiation reaches the surface in dangerous amounts. The planet also sits in an active asteroid zone and shows evidence of multiple major impact events in its history." Al studied the data with growing interest. He had surveyed many dangerous worlds before. This one was impressive in its hostility. "What about the surface conditions?" 70% covered in liquid water. The water contains salt and supports aggressive predatory life forms. Land masses show extreme geographic diversity. Mountains, deserts, frozen regions, dense forests, and active volcanic zones. Seismic activity is common. The planet experiences thousands of earthquakes annually. "A nightmare world," whispered. "Nothing could survive there." "Actually," said slowly, "the biological scans show something unexpected. There are millions of distinct life forms on this planet. Millions, Commander. The biodiversity is unlike anything in our records." Al leaned forward. This was unusual. Dangerous worlds typically had limited life. Evolution struggled in hostile conditions. Yet this blue planet was overflowing with living creatures. "What kinds of life?" he asked. Pulled up more data. Everything. Microscopic organisms, plants, insects, aquatic creatures, land animals. Many of them are predators. The oceans contain creatures with hundreds of teeth. The land has animals with claws and fangs designed for killing. Even the plants on this world are sometimes deadly. Some produce toxins. Others have physical defenses like thorns and spines. Said, the word was heavy with meaning, were rare in the galaxy. They were planets so dangerous that sentient life could never develop. Evolution would favor only the most brutal survival traits, leaving no room for intelligence or civilization. Al was about to agree when made a small choking sound. "Commander," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I am detecting artificial structures on the surface." The bridge went silent. "Explain," Al demanded. "Cities, roads, agricultural patterns, and there are artificial satellites in orbit around the planet, thousands of them." Turned to face him, her eyes wide with disbelief. "There is intelligent life down there. They have technology. They have civilization." "Impossible," said firmly. Our models are clear. Sentient life cannot evolve on a world this hostile. The conditions do not allow for it. The readings do not lie, replied. Al stood frozen for a long moment. In all his years of service, he had never encountered anything like this. With intelligent life. A species that had somehow evolved and built a civilization on a planet that should have killed them countless times over. What do we know about them? He asked quietly. Worked her controls rapidly. They call themselves humans. They communicate using radio waves. I am picking up thousands of signals. Audio, video, data transmissions. They appear to be a social species. They have nations and governments. They have art and music and literature. How is this possible? Demanded. How did they survive? I do not know, admitted. Al made his decision quickly. This discovery was too important to ignore. The Galactic Council would need to know about this world and its impossible inhabitants. But first, they needed more information. They needed to understand how any species could thrive in such a hellish environment. We will send observation probes to the surface, he announced. Stealth configuration. I want detailed recordings of these humans and how they live. We need to understand what we are dealing with before we make any reports. Is that wise? Asked. If they detect us if they are hostile. A species that survived on that world is certainly dangerous, Al agreed. But that is exactly why we must learn more. If they ever leave their planet, if they ever reach the stars, the galaxy needs to be prepared. He looked back at the viewing screen, at the small blue world that had just changed everything they knew about life in the universe. It looked so peaceful from here, so calm and inviting. But the data told a different story. That planet was a death trap, and somehow, impossibly, something had not only survived there but had built a civilization. Launch the probes, Al ordered. Let us see what kind of creatures call a home. The first probe detached from the ship and began its descent toward the blue planet below. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, the crew watched in tense silence. None of them knew that this moment would change the future of the galaxy forever. None of them understood that the humans below were about to teach them lessons they never expected to learn. The probe disappeared into the white clouds of Earth, and the waiting began. The probe landed in a region the humans called North America. It was small and silent, designed to watch without being seen. From the bridge of the horizon's edge, Commander Al and his crew observed everything it recorded. The first thing they noticed was the gravity. Earth pulled at objects with a force of 1 standard gravity unit. For the who came from a world with only 60% of that pull, it was a crushing weight. Yet the humans walked upright without effort. They ran. They jumped. Children played games that involved leaping through the air and landing hard on the ground. None of them seemed to notice the invisible force that would have broken bones. Their skeletal structure must be incredibly dense, observed. And their muscles, look at how easily they move. They are built for a heavy world. Watched a human male lifting metal weights in something called a gymnasium. The weights were marked with numbers that made her gasp. He is lifting nearly his own body mass over his head, for exercise, for entertainment. They are strong, Al said quietly, stronger than any species in our records. The probe moved through a city, recording everything. The watched humans going about their daily lives. They ate food from street vendors without testing it for poison. They crossed roads filled with fast-moving metal vehicles, trusting that the machines would stop for them. They walked past strangers without fear, never checking for weapons or threats. They are either very brave or very foolish, muttered. Then the probe recorded something that silenced the entire bridge. A building was on fire. Flames poured from the windows and thick black smoke filled the sky. They expected the humans to flee. Fire was deadly. No sensible species would approach it. Instead, a large vehicle arrived carrying humans in special clothing. They were called firefighters, according to the probe's translation of local communications. A human male named Jake Cooper jumped from the vehicle and ran toward the burning building. He was not running away. He was running inside. "What is he doing?" whispered. Through the smoke and flames, they watched Jake climb stairs that could collapse at any moment. The temperature inside the building was extreme. The probe's sensors showed heat levels that would kill in seconds, yet Jake kept moving. He found a small human child trapped in a room and carried her out through the fire. When he emerged from the building, his clothing was burned and his skin was red with heat damage. But he was alive. The child was alive. Other humans rushed forward to help them, wrapping them in blankets and treating their wounds. Jake Cooper sat on the ground, breathing heavily, and smiled. "He is smiling," said in disbelief. "He nearly died and he is smiling." "He saved the child," Al observed. "That matters to him more than his own safety." The probe continued recording. It moved to a human medical facility, what they called a hospital. Here, Dr. Amy worked through the night treating injured humans. They watched in horror as she dealt with wounds that would be fatal to any known species. A human came in with a broken leg. The bone was visible through the skin. Amy calmly gave him medicine for pain and then reset the bone by hand. The human was awake for this. He complained and cursed, but he survived. His body would heal itself over time. Another human arrived with deep cuts across his arm. He was bleeding heavily. Amy stitched the wound closed using a needle and thread, as if she were repairing torn fabric. The human watched her work and thanked her when she finished. "Their bodies regenerate," said, studying the data. "They can heal from injuries that would kill us. Broken bones, torn flesh, even damage to internal organs. Given enough time, they recover." "They are not immortal," Al noted. "They do die, but they are remarkably difficult to kill." The most disturbing thing they witnessed in the hospital was something called surgery. A human needed repair to his heart, the organ that pumped blood through his body. So the doctors cut him open. They stopped his heart using machines. They fixed the damage while he lay there, technically dead. Then they restarted his heart and sewed him back together. The human woke up a few hours later and asked for food. Had to leave the bridge. She could not watch anymore. The probe next traveled to a wilderness area. Here, a human named Ben Torres worked as something called a park ranger. His job was to protect the land and the animals that lived there. They expected this to be safer than the city. They were wrong. Ben was walking through a forest when he encountered a massive creature covered in brown fur. It was called a grizzly bear, according to the probe's database. The animal stood nearly 3 meters tall on its back legs. It had claws the length of fingers and teeth designed for tearing flesh. "He is dead," whispered. "There is no escape." But Ben did not run. He did not scream. He slowly raised his arms to make himself appear larger. He spoke to the bear in a calm voice. Then he began walking backward, never turning his back on the predator. The bear watched him for a long moment, then returned to what it was doing. Ben continued his patrol as if nothing had happened. He knew what to do, Al realized. He has encountered these creatures before. He has learned to survive among them. They began to understand something important. Earth was not just a dangerous world. It was the most dangerous world they had ever seen. Predators existed everywhere. In the forests, in the oceans, in the skies. Deadly creatures lived alongside humans in every environment, and the humans had not fled. They had not hidden. They had learned to share their world with monsters. The final recording of the day showed a human family in their home. They had a large dog, a domesticated descendant of wolves. The creature had sharp teeth and powerful jaws. It could easily kill a child. Instead, it lay on the floor while the children climbed on it and pulled its ears. The animal wagged its tail happily. "They have taken predators into their homes," said when she returned to the bridge. "They have made killers into companions." Al nodded slowly. He was beginning to form a new understanding of humanity. They were not just survivors. They were masters of survival. They had taken and made it their home. They had faced every danger their planet could produce and had refused to be defeated. "Send more probes," he ordered. "I want to see everything. I want to understand how they became what they are." The Horizon's Edge deployed 6 more observation units across the planet. Whatever secrets humanity held, Commander Al was determined to uncover them all. Historian L had spent 3 days studying human records. He had accessed their broadcast archives, their information networks, and their historical databases. When Commander Al called him to the bridge for a report, his scales had turned pale gray. This was a sign of deep distress among the. "What have you learned?" Al asked. Al stood before the crew, his 4 eyes unfocused as if he had seen things he wished to forget. "Commander, I do not know how to explain what I have found. Every discovery makes the previous one seem less significant. These humans should not exist. Nothing about their history makes sense." "Start from the beginning," Al said. Al activated the viewing screen. Images of Earth appeared, showing the planet at different periods of its history. "This world has experienced 5 major extinction events. 5 times nearly all life on this planet was destroyed. Asteroid impacts, volcanic disasters, climate collapse, ice ages. Each time the world reset. Each time life had to start over. And yet life continued," observed. "Yes, and humans evolved from the survivors. They appeared roughly 300,000 years ago, which is remarkably recent. They originated in a region called Africa." The screen showed a map of the continent. "Look at what shared that land with early humans: lions, leopards, hyenas, crocodiles, venomous snakes, elephants that could crush a human with one step. The list goes on. Humans were not apex predators, they were prey." "But they survived," Al said. "They did more than survive. They thrived. They spread across the entire planet. They crossed oceans. They climbed the highest mountains. They settled in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. Everywhere they went, they adapted. They conquered." Shifted uncomfortably. "How? They are not the strongest or fastest creatures on their world. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom." "They have something more dangerous," El replied. "They have endurance. They can chase prey for hours until it collapses from exhaustion. They have adaptable bodies that can survive heat and cold. And most importantly, they have intelligence. They learn to make tools. They learn to work together. They became the most successful predators their world has ever seen." He changed the image on the screen. Now it showed ancient humans hunting a massive woolly creature with long tusks. They hunted this animal to extinction. It was larger than any land creature alive today. Humans killed it using pointed sticks and teamwork. When their environment changed, they changed with it. When the ice came, they wore the skins of dead animals and built shelters from bones. They refused to die. Commander Al absorbed this information quietly. The more he learned about humans, the more impressive they became, and the more dangerous. "There is more," El continued. "I studied their modern history. Their technological progress has been explosively fast. In just 200 years, they went from riding animals for transportation to traveling beyond their atmosphere. They have walked on their moon. They have sent machines to explore other planets in their system." "That speed of development is unheard of," said. "It gets worse." El paused, gathering himself. "They have weapons. Weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization. They call them nuclear devices. They have built thousands of them. Each one can level a city. Together, they could make their planet uninhabitable." The bridge fell silent. Every understood the horror of what they were hearing. A species with the power to destroy itself and the planet it lived on. "Why would they create such things?" asked. "They created them to use against each other," El explained. "Humans have fought wars throughout their history. They have killed millions of their own kind in conflicts over land, resources, and ideas. They are violent. They are aggressive. And yet, despite having these planet-killing weapons for decades, they have not used them to destroy themselves." "Self-control," Al murmured. They built ultimate weapons and then chose not to use them. It is more complicated than that, Al said. They came close several times, but something always stopped them. Some combination of fear and reason and hope. They continue to exist because, despite their violence, they also possess restraint. The historian changed the screen again. Now it showed humans in strange situations. A woman in protective clothing stood near a flowing river of molten rock. A man climbed a frozen mountain peak where the air was too thin to breathe properly. Others jumped from aircraft with fabric sheets attached to their bodies, falling toward the ground at deadly speeds. "What are these humans doing?" asked confused. "They are having fun," El replied. "They call these activities extreme sports or scientific research. They voluntarily put themselves in deadly situations for excitement or knowledge. The woman near the lava is named Dr. Lisa Grant. She is studying volcanic activity. She does this regularly, for her career." Stared at the screen in disbelief. They seek out danger for entertainment. Yes, they climb mountains that kill them. They dive into deep water where the pressure can crush their bodies. They explore caves where they can become trapped forever. They do these things willingly, often with smiles on their faces. Commander Al walked closer to the screen. He watched Dr. Lisa Grant taking samples from near the lava flow, her face focused and calm despite the deadly heat surrounding her. She was not afraid. She was curious. "I am updating our classification," he announced. "This is not simply a hostile world. This is a Class 10, the highest possible rating." "There is one more thing," Al said quietly. "I calculated the average number of potentially lethal situations a typical human faces in their daily life. Exposure to solar radiation, consumption of foods that could cause allergic reactions, contact with microscopic predators that cause disease, dangerous transportation methods, environmental hazards. The average human survives hundreds of potentially deadly situations every single year without even noticing." "They do not notice because it is normal to them," Al realized. "They have lived with death their entire existence. It is simply part of their world." "Exactly," El confirmed. "To them, constant danger is not remarkable. It is simply life." The commander turned to face his crew. Everyone looked shaken. They had come to this planet expecting to find a primitive species struggling to survive. Instead, they had found something far more terrifying. A civilization of beings who had evolved to thrive in conditions that would kill anything else. A species that had turned death itself into something ordinary. "We cannot report this to the Council yet," Al decided. "We need more understanding. We need to know if they are a threat or simply remarkable survivors." Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded across the bridge. Rushed to her station, then looked up with fear in her eyes. "Commander, we have a problem. Engine failure. We are losing altitude." The horizon's edge shuddered violently. Through the viewing screen, they could see the blue planet growing larger. They were falling toward the "All hands, emergency stations," Al commanded, his voice calm despite the terror growing in his chest. "We are going down." The ship that had come to study humanity was about to land among them. The horizon's edge crashed into a valley surrounded by mountains. The impact was hard but controlled. Commander Al had managed to slow the descent enough to prevent total destruction. When the ship finally stopped moving, the crew took stock of their situation. They were alive. The ship was damaged but intact, and they were stranded on the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. "Damage report," Al ordered. Worked her console with shaking hands. "Main engines are offline. Navigation systems are destroyed. Life support is functioning but stressed. We have maybe 10 days of breathable air if we stay sealed inside." "Can we repair the engines?" asked. "Possibly, but we would need materials we do not have, and we would need to go outside." She glanced toward the external viewing screen. Through the cracked display, they could see trees and rocks and a pale blue sky. "Out there." The thought terrified everyone. They had spent days watching the horrors of Earth. Now they were trapped on its surface with no way to escape. Every moment they stayed increased the chance that something would find them. Predators, diseases, or worse, the humans themselves. We remain inside, Al decided. We seal all entrances and wait. Perhaps we can send a distress signal. They tried, but the communications array had been damaged in the crash. No signal could reach beyond the planet's atmosphere. They were alone. 3 hours passed, then detected movement approaching the ship. Commander, there are life forms coming. Multiple signatures. They are moving directly toward us. The viewing screen showed a group of humans emerging from the trees. There were 5 of them. One was a young male, barely past childhood. He was pointing at the ship and talking excitedly. Behind him came 4 adults, 3 males and 1 female. They carried objects but moved slowly without aggression. Weapons, he whispered. Unknown, replied. I cannot identify all the objects they carry. The human stopped a safe distance from the ship. The oldest male stepped forward. He wore a uniform with a metal symbol on his chest. He raised his empty hands in the air, showing he held nothing. Hey there, he called out. His voice was picked up by the external sensors. My name is Danny Cole. I am the sheriff here. That means I help keep people safe. We saw your ship come down. We are here to help if you need it. They stared at the screen in disbelief. He is offering help, El said, after we invaded his territory. It could be a trap, warned, a way to draw us out so they can capture us. Commander Al watched the humans carefully. Danny Cole remained still, his hands visible. Behind him, a female with brown hair was unpacking containers from a bag. She set out items that looked like food and drinks. I'm Price, she called out. I brought coffee and sandwiches. I figured whoever crashed might be hungry or hurt. We have medical supplies too. The young human could not contain himself. Are you aliens, like actual real aliens? This is the coolest thing that has ever happened. I'm Shaw. Are there more of you? What planet are you from? Can you understand me? An older male put his hand on shoulder. Give them space, son. They might be scared. Scared they have a spaceship. That's amazing. Commander Al felt something strange. He had expected violence. He had expected the humans to attack, to demand surrender, to treat them as threats. Instead, these 5 creatures stood in the open, offering food and speaking kind words. It did not match anything he had learned about them. They are predators, insisted. We watch them hunt. We watch them kill. This must be some form of trap. Or perhaps it is not, El said quietly. We studied their violence but also their medicine, their firefighters, their rescue workers. We saw them risk their lives to save strangers. Perhaps this is the same instinct. Hours passed. The humans did not leave. They sat on the ground near their vehicles, waiting patiently. Danny Cole occasionally called out, repeating that they meant no harm, that they only wanted to help. Price left food and water closer to the ship, then backed away. Finally, Commander Al made a decision that would change history. Open the communication channel, he ordered. External speakers only. I want to talk to them. The channel opened with a soft click. Al spoke slowly, hoping the translation systems would work properly. I am Commander Al of the Survey Fleet. We did not intend to land on your world. Our ship was damaged. We are stranded. Danny Cole smiled. It was a strange expression, showing teeth, but his body language suggested friendliness rather than threat. Well, Commander, sounds like you've had a rough day. We're not going to hurt you. We just want to make sure you're okay. Is anyone injured in there? No, we are unharmed, but our ship cannot fly without repairs. What do you need? We've got some pretty clever engineers around here. Maybe we can help fix it. Grabbed Al's arm. Commander, we cannot let them inside the ship. If they see our technology, if they understand how it works. If they wanted to harm us, they would have done so already, Al replied. They have vehicles and tools. They could have attacked. Instead, they brought food. He turned back to the screen. I am going to open the main hatch. I will come out to speak with you, but I ask that you remain where you are. My crew is frightened. Danny nodded. Understood. We'll stay right here. Take your time. The main hatch opened slowly. Commander Al stepped onto the soil of Earth for the first time. The gravity pulled at him heavily. The air smelled strange, filled with oxygen and organic compounds. Everything about this world felt wrong to his senses. And yet, the human stood calmly, watching him with expressions of wonder rather than hostility. Shaw's eyes were wide. Whoa, you're tall and purple, that's so cool. Danny warned. Sorry, I mean hello, welcome to Earth, this is amazing. Price stepped forward slowly. She held out a cup filled with dark liquid. Coffee, it's hot. I don't know if you can drink it, but it's kind of a tradition to offer it. Means you're welcome here. Al looked at the cup, then at the woman holding it. She was small compared to him, soft and fragile looking. Yet she stood before an alien creature without fear, offering a simple gift. Thank you, he said, taking the cup. He could not consume the liquid, but he understood the gesture. Your kindness is unexpected. Danny laughed softly. Yeah, well, you crashed, you needed help, that's all that matters to us. In that moment, Commander Al began to understand something that all their surveillance had missed. Humans were dangerous. Humans were survivors, but they were also capable of something rare in the galaxy. They could look at a stranger from another world and choose compassion over fear. Perhaps, Al said slowly, we have much to learn from each other. Danny Cole extended his hand. That's usually how it works. Now, let's see about fixing your ship. 3 days had passed since the Horizon's Edge crashed in the Colorado Valley. Commander Al stood outside the ship, watching humans and working together on the damaged engines. It was a sight he never expected to see. Word of the landing had spread carefully. Government officials had arrived, but they had come with scientists and engineers rather than soldiers. A man named Director had explained that this was first contact, and they wanted to do it right. No weapons, no threats, just cooperation. Your welding techniques are fascinating, said to a human engineer named Tony Marsh. The heat control is primitive but effective. Tony laughed. Yeah, well, we work with what we have. Your power systems are way beyond anything I've seen, but metal is metal. The principles are the same. They had discovered that Earth had many of the materials needed to repair the ship. The challenge was adapting human tools to technology. It required patience and creativity on both sides, but slowly, progress was being made. Commander Al spent much of his time talking with Sheriff Danny Cole. They would walk around the valley, discussing their different worlds and ways of life. Al found himself growing to respect this human more with each conversation. How do you handle it? Al asked one evening. The constant danger of your world. Danny shrugged. You get used to it. When you grow up around something, it stops feeling strange. Hurricanes, earthquakes, predators, they're just part of life. You learn to prepare. You learn to protect each other. But you could die at any moment. Does that not frighten you? Sure, sometimes, but fear doesn't help much. You acknowledge the danger, you do what you can to stay safe, and then you live your life. What's the alternative? Hiding forever. That's not living. Al considered this. On worlds, life was carefully controlled. Danger was minimized. Citizens lived in protected environments, shielded from anything that might harm them. It had made them safe but also cautious. Perhaps too cautious. Price continued to bring food for the growing group of humans and aliens. She could not feed them directly, but she ensured that every human worker was well cared for. When asked why she worked so hard, she gave a simple answer. They crashed, they needed help, that's all that matters. Al heard those words repeated often during his time on Earth. It seemed to be a core philosophy for these humans. Someone is in trouble, we help them. The reason did not matter, the origin did not matter, only the need. Shaw visited every day after his school sessions ended. He asked endless questions about space travel, other planets, and alien civilizations. Who had been the most frightened of the crew, found herself enjoying his enthusiasm. She showed him star charts and taught him words in the language. "You're not scary at all," told her one afternoon. "I thought aliens would be scary, but you're just people, different people but still people." "You are not what I expected either," admitted. "I thought humans would be violent and hostile. I thought you would try to capture us or study us against our will." Laughed, maybe in movies, but in real life that would just be mean. On the third day, the repairs were completed. The engines hummed with power once again. Navigation systems had been rebuilt using a combination of technology and human ingenuity. The horizon's edge was ready to fly. Commander Al gathered his crew and asked them a question he had been considering for days. "What do we tell the Galactic Council?" Al spoke first. "We tell them the truth. Earth is the humans are survivors of an impossibly hostile environment. They are strong, resilient, and adaptable. They possess weapons capable of destroying planets." "That will frighten the Council," said. "They might declare Earth a threat. They might recommend isolation or worse." "Then we must also tell them what else we learned," added. "That despite their strength, humans chose to help us. Strangers from another world crashed on their planet and they responded with kindness. They shared their food, their knowledge, their time. They asked for nothing in return." Commander Al nodded slowly. "That is what I will report. Humanity is dangerous because their world made them dangerous, but they have chosen to be more than what their environment demanded. They have chosen compassion. That choice is more remarkable than any weapon." The departure ceremony was small but meaningful. The humans who had helped with the repairs gathered near the ship. Government officials made formal speeches about friendship between worlds, but the moment that mattered most was simpler than that. Danny Cole shook Al's hand one final time. "Take care of yourself out there, Commander, and if you're ever in the neighborhood again, stop by. Coffee's always on." "I may take you up on that offer," Al replied. "Sheriff Cole, your people have surprised me. You have shown me that strength and kindness can exist together." Handed him a small package. "I know you can't eat our food, but this is something to remember us by, a picture of our town and everyone who helped, so you don't forget us." "I could never forget you," Al said honestly. "You have changed how I see the universe." Ran up to and hugged her awkwardly. She froze for a moment, then carefully patted his back. "Come back and visit," he said. "I want to hear about all the planets you discover." "I will try," she promised. The crew boarded their ship. The engines fired and the horizon's edge rose slowly into the sky. Through the viewing screen, they watched the humans growing smaller below them. Danny waved, shielded her eyes from the sun, jumped up and down, still excited even at the end. As they broke through the atmosphere and returned to the darkness of space, Commander Al took one last look at the blue planet. It still appeared peaceful from this distance, calm and inviting. Now he knew better. Now he understood what lived there. "Set course for the Galactic Council headquarters," he ordered. The journey would take several cycles. Al used that time to prepare his report. He wrote about the dangers of Earth, the predators, the diseases, the toxic atmosphere, the crushing gravity. He documented the weapons and the wars and the extinction events. He made sure the Council would understand exactly what kind of world humanity called home. But he also wrote about the firefighters who ran into burning buildings, the doctors who healed the wounded, the rangers who protected dangerous animals, the ordinary people who saw strangers in need and offered help without question. His final paragraph was the most important. Earth is a Class 10. Its inhabitants are among the most dangerous beings in the known galaxy. They have survived everything their planet has thrown at them and have grown stronger for it. But I have seen something in them that our scientific models never predicted. They protect each other. They care for each other. They extend that protection even to strangers. If we approach them with respect and friendship, I believe they will respond in kind. If we approach them with hostility, we will face an enemy unlike any the galaxy has ever known. I recommend we choose wisely." He signed the report and submitted it. Back on Earth, Danny, Cole, and Price stood outside her diner, looking up at the stars. The sky was clear, and somewhere up there, new friends were flying home. "Think they'll come back?" asked. Danny smiled. "I hope so. It would be nice to know we're not alone out here." "We never were," said. "We just didn't know it yet." She handed him a cup of coffee, and they stood together in comfortable silence, two small figures on a deadly world that had somehow learned to be kind. Above them, the stars continued to shine, and the universe felt just a little bit smaller than before.